Hey guys, this is Lisa Simone Richards, and this is kind of new to me this Thursday. This time, for the first time, I'm going live on my Facebook page instead of in my Facebook group because I've been doing these weekly interviews that are so much fun, but a lot of you guys are missing out. So I had some good advice to come to my page, and I am bringing in my great friend Kathleen Legrys today. She is a business coach for business and marketing coach, for health and wellness entrepreneurs and health coaches. So Kathleen and I met a little bit earlier this year when I did a summit, and she has a really great superpower of helping you understand how to market your business and how to get clients. But I think one of the first things we need to talk about is how do you get that mindset? How do you have that confidence to go out there and get them? So that's why I brought Kathleen on today to help us out a little bit with that. So hey, Kathleen, how are you?
Hey, let me just say I'm also happy to be your guinea pig going on your page today. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I love everything that you're doing. And you've done a couple of guest blog posts for me that people have absolutely loved. You did that killer summit, so yeah, thanks for having me on.
Oh, I'm so psyched, and that brought goosebumps to me, Kathleen. You're always someone I've looked up to and respected in the industry. So to receive that feedback from you means a lot to me. So I receive it, and thank you so much. And you and I had so much fun connecting over the summit. Like you said, we've done the guest post. We have a few other things in the works. So Kathleen, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about who you are and how you help them?
Sure. So yeah, Kathleen Legrys, and my business is called Health Coach Solutions. And pretty much what I offer for health coaches is done for you solutions. So programs that they can customize, brand as their own, plug them into their business and roll. As we're going to talk about the confidence issue, one of the problems I see is coaches not knowing how to get started. Like, what kind of program should I have? What do I lead them to? What do I do? So what I get to do is help alleviate some of that stress, some of the overwhelm and confusion that they have that surrounds, like, how do I launch a program? What do I do?
And we're so grateful for everything that you do, because when we're just launching our businesses, it can be such a challenge, and we're just like, what comes next? So to have someone who makes every little step a bit easier, create some done-for-you templates, it just helps people get past that barrier of not being able to do it. So thank you again for what you're putting out in the world.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot to do when you're a new health coach, right? You just went through your program, you're all excited, you're pumped, you're ready to go, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I don't know what I want to do. But that's why I was really excited to talk about this topic of confidence, because I really think what's important to understand is that really, I think all new coaches lack confidence when they're first starting, which it makes sense, right? You went to school, you're learning a new career, and it's also a lot of responsibility. So I know I felt really nervous, maybe you did too, when I was brand new. I didn't know if I knew enough, was anybody going to want to work with me? But I knew that if I wanted to help people, I was going to have to push through that fear and doubt anyway and get started. So that's why I wanted to share some strategies today with you guys that helped me, in hopes that it will help you also. And one thing, let me backtrack a little bit. So I went to IIN, I graduated back in 2013. And as much as I loved the program, like I said, I came out not really knowing. It's almost like I had more questions when I was done than I did when I was going through the program. It's almost like you come out and you're like in shock, like a deer in the headlights. Okay, what do I do? So I had to take a step back and figure out what kind of structure would fit into my life and my goals the best. So what I mean by that is, how was I going to coach people? So I decided I was going to do all of my coaching over the phone, because I didn't want to have to worry about having people in my house. I didn't want to have to worry about traveling somewhere or renting a space. So to me, it made perfect sense to coach clients over the phone and or on Skype. It worked out great. I loved it. I didn't have to go anywhere. The clients didn't have to go anywhere, and they actually liked it. They could hang out in their pajamas with me and chat if they wanted to. But after I was coaching clients one-on-one, I decided that I wanted to branch out and then offer online programs too. So that was just kind of like a step-by-step process that I had to figure out along the way too. So I think most coaches that start out, they do have very little confidence. And the ones that maybe you see that are crushing it, trust me, they started out with very little confidence too. And, just kind of step by step, put the pieces into place so that they can build their confidence over time.
That's an amazing backstory.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us so much depth. I think something that can be a challenge is, we come up with our imposter complex when we launch a business. Yeah. And on certain levels, a lot of us were looking for that permission to move forward. So I think that's a really solid reason why, a lot of us turn to different business coaches to help give us that permission, to give us that leadership and that guidance. So you're in this awesome place, Kathleen, where you're, maybe 5-10 steps ahead of these ideal clients who are watching right now, the people who are tuned into this page. So you shared a little bit about your journey, and we talked about confidence. So for those who are tuning in, what would you say is the first step that we have to take to get the confidence to go out and grab some new clients and help them out?
Okay, so the first step is to be prepared with how you're going to help people. So this is going to be your coaching program, right? I think part of the lack of confidence comes from things like that, that voice in your head, gosh, how am I going to help people? What do I do? What am I going to share? Do I know enough? And I felt all those things when I first started out, trust me, and more. I was super nervous, like that imposter complex, like, can I really help people? So I went to work to create my own coaching program that I knew I could take people through step by step. For me, it was going to include 12 different topics. But depending on the client, where they were starting out, what their struggles were, would depend what topic I would start with first. So what I recommend, because that gave me like a system. So I knew as soon as I created that program, I felt like the weight came off my shoulder. Okay, I have something great that I know is really going to help people. So just having that program, having that system. So you want to think about what journey do you want to take your clients on? Like, what are their struggles? Do you have a niche yet? Maybe you don't, that's okay. The sooner you can figure that out, the better. But you want to map out the journey that you want to take people on. And by that, I mean, imagine you have this wonderful client and you just want to envision taking them by the hand step by step along the way, because they're feeling very overwhelmed too. So what do you envision as a journey or transformation that you can take your clients on? And as you're thinking about that, brainstorm topic ideas. Like, for example, some of the topics I would cover included, because this was a really big one, menu planning for the week, because we know if you don't plan ahead, you're going to, end up eating poorly, going through the drive-through. And for my clients, that was one of their biggest struggles. So things like menu planning, how to eat more fruits and vegetables, how to fit in exercise, self-care, stress management. And these may be things that to us as health coaches sound very basic, and maybe they are, but for most of our clients, this is where they need help the most. But you have to decide for you. Maybe your niche is helping people go gluten-free. Maybe it's postpartum mom. So, think about what journey do you want to take them on to help them live a better, healthier life. And this is a question I get a lot too. Should it be 3 months or 6 months?
Yeah.
Just pick what makes most sense to you right now, because there is no right or wrong answer. If you can come up with, say, 6 topics and you want to spread those out over 3 months, great, start with that. But you do want to also have a short-term program, because I know one of the worst feelings, you're doing that new client consultation and you're dreading hearing the word no thank you, that they're not ready to work with you. So that's one of the reasons that I recommend having a short-term program, because maybe they're not ready to commit to your 3 or 6 month program for whatever reason. It could be the cost, it could be the time commitment. But if you have, say, like a 30-day program, which is an intro program, that really gives them a chance to get to know you, and you can offer them a choice. So their option isn't just to say yes or no thank you. It's, oh, you have a short-term program, maybe that's where I want to start. So just having more than one way that people can work with you, I think, is another way to boost your confidence.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that you share that because as I go along my own journey, I'm learning the same thing as well. And one thing that you spoke about just now that I would love to touch on a little bit is having a program. And something you mentioned is having a system. And I think that's something that's not only going to make you feel more confident in yourself as a coach when you know, okay, this is my program, this is how it's structured, and these are my 5 steps in my system. But when you're communicating that to a client who's considering investing with you, when they hear, oh, Kathleen has her own branded program and she knows exactly what it is step by step, that helps them have confidence in you as well.
Yeah. And it's funny what happens. Like when you have the right tools to do your job, you just feel empowered. Like, okay, I know what I can do. I know how I can help these people. And it sounds really simple, but I can't even tell you, once I had that in place, I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Because I struggled when I was coaching clients one-on-one. I felt like I was spinning my wheels and spending so much time. Like that 1 hour consultation was really taking me more like 3 hours between, preparing and writing the recap. And I was thinking, this isn't a model that I'm really going to be able to grow unless I triple my rates, So that was important to me, not just as a confidence booster, but also to streamline my business and work smarter.
Amazing. So I'm seeing a few people are logging on. So for those of you who are just joining us now, thanks for joining me. I'm chatting with Kathleen Legrys of healthcoachsolutions.net. And today she and I are talking about how to have the confidence to get clients. So we just went over point number 1, which was your program and your system. And we're about to jump into, what the second step is. But before I ask Kathleen that, if any of you guys have questions, I would love for you to pop them into the chat because we can answer them live on this Q&A. And even if you're watching this on the replay, leave your questions as well because we'll be pouring back in here and just checking in so we can make sure we answer anything that you might need to know. So Kathleen, moving on with our conversation, I'm hoping you're not hearing the construction in the background. Tell us what is the second thing that we need to do. So, okay, we've got a program.
It's so funny to say, I thought, oh my gosh, I know with my luck, my yard guys are going to show up, but that's the beauty. That's the beauty of Facebook Live, right?
I love that it's just this honest, transparent peek into what's going on in the world. Like I always do these at 3 p.m. because that's when construction is supposed to end.
Yes, exactly.
And at any moment, chances are you're going to see a tail go by here because my cat's hanging out on the table beside my computer. So the reality of Facebook Live, guys, it's not all perfect and polished.
No, but that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Kathleen, tell us what's the second step once we've got our program and our system?
Okay, so it's funny. It's really hard for me to rate which one of these is more important, but this one is so incredibly important, is to practice with people to build your confidence. We can't expect to be great at something right out of the gate. As much as we would like that to be true, it's not how it works. I don't know why we put this kind of pressure on ourselves, but we do, right? We need practice and repetition to feel comfortable and get better at something. So if you think about any new skill, like even if you started a new job, right, and where you have a boss, it takes you a few weeks to really get your groove and feel comfortable and feel more confident about what you're doing. And as a health coach, it's very similar, although you're your own boss, but you're basically learning a new job, which it's a big deal. So you can practice either. This is what I did when I was still at IIN, is practice with another coach where you agree to coach each other for, 60, 90 days, right? So it's like a mutual agreement there. And this works really well if you're still in the training program. But if you are connected with other health coaches, whether it's my Facebook group, your Facebook group, just somewhere, reach out and see if you can find another coach that you guys can agree to coach each other for free. Great way to get practice. Another option, I did this one too, is to coach 2 or 3 people for free. I recommend you don't do it longer than 3 months and don't pick a family member or a close friend because they tend to not take it seriously. I had amazing luck with the people that I coached for free. I had 3 people and I took them through my 3-month program. And I was so nervous, like so flippin' nervous, like, sweaty palms, racing heart, like just everything. But within 2 minutes of being on that call with them, because I coached all over the United States at that point, By the end of that call, I was so excited and so motivated. Like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. This is amazing. Like I can do this. And I really think the fear factor holds us back. And you can say, well, it's kind of a waste of time. I mean, for me, it was a no-brainer. I considered it my own self-imposed internship. I didn't know if anybody else was doing this. Just for me, this is what I knew I needed to get over that hurdle, to test my systems. Like, okay, can I to kind of reduce or quiet those nagging doubts that you have. So that's one option too. For me, it worked phenomenally well. And the nice thing about that is one of the people that I was coaching for free, she actually referred me a paying client. So that was really cool. That was cool too. But another option is, to take on 2 or 3 clients at a reduced fee and consider that like your beta program. So whatever you decide to do, make it easy to start. Like today, decide, okay, I'm going to go out and get 2 or 3 free clients, or I'm going to get 2 or 3 reduced, whatever it is, decide today that you're going to do it. Otherwise, that fear is going to really hold you back from building your business. And I can't tell you how critical that was for me, just to get started.
And something I love about these conversations is as you're talking, you're saying things. I'm like, that's such a good point. That's also a good point. I have to remember all these points to come back to in a second. So, okay, I'm going to try my best to sort through my mental catalog of all the things you just shared that I wanted to talk about. So one thing you said is one thing I love that you mentioned is you started talking about doing coaching for free. And in my head, I was kind of like, now how much do people value that? I want to ask her about doing something at a low entry level cost. And then of course, you just naturally brought that up on your own. So thank you for showing us both the free and the beta perspectives of it. And one thing that I would love to actually even expand upon with what you said is when you're practicing with somebody else to just test out your systems, make sure you're confident. Another thing that you're doing is not only are you getting practice, but if you do a good job, you actually also have testimonials at the end.
Yes. Yep.
So that's something you can be sure to share on your website, on social media, just any marketing materials. I see Wendy Davis. Hey, thanks for joining us, Wendy, who's saying, that's really great advice. So hopefully that's going to be helpful for you, Wendy, and everybody else who's tuning in. So there are a lot of really good things that you've shared there. So the first one, again, just to do a little recap as we go through them, you noted for us to have confidence in getting customers is to have our program or our step-by-step system. And then next, to practice to build our confidence.
Yep.
So tell me, Kathleen, what comes after that?
All right, this one might be the scariest one of all. You guys ready?
Do it. Tell us.
So number 3 is to get yourself out there so you can let people know what you do, right? So, okay, you have your program and you've had some practice, right? Now it's time to get yourself out there. So this I know can be kind of overwhelming too, but decide how you're going to get in front of people. Do you want to do in-person workshops? Do you want to do webinars, maybe cooking classes? Live streams are also another great way to get in front of your audience. Or it could be something totally different. Like I said, sometimes that can be the overwhelming thing, is to decide what do you want to do. I recommend picking what feels the best to you and what excites you the most. Like if you love that one-on-one interaction and that gives you energy and you feed off of other people's energy in the room, probably a live one-on-one workshop, a cooking class, something like that, where you're in a room filled with people, as opposed to like a webinar where it's more virtual. But whatever it is that you do, pick a couple things. Do them consistently, because your first workshop may not be wonderful. You may not have enough people show up, but it's too easy to throw in the towel, think, oh, well, that didn't work. But you have to do it consistently over time so you can gain some traction and gain some momentum.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I know this is like a whole other topic, which we don't have time for today to dive into marketing. But, and maybe you've already had a few paying clients. That's great. But just decide, okay, how are you going to get yourself in front of people other than posting on social media, which I think that's great and wonderful for brand recognition and things like that. Mm-hmm. But once you can get in front of people with them, seeing your face, seeing your personality, that is a game changer. And a lot of other health coaches aren't doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one incredible way to set yourself apart. And I know, Lisa, you're an expert on positioning and getting media coverage. And I think that's another great strategy too, to add to the marketing mix.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, you know, there are two big things that I just pulled out of what you shared, Kathleen. The two words that I'm really walking away with are decision and consistency. So speaking to consistency, I know that's personally my theme word for 2017, because you can't just do it once and hope that, well, I did it once, it should have worked. Like, no, we're going to have stumbling blocks. You're going to have learning opportunities. So it happens once. And I always tell people, if the first time you do something, it's really good, you totally waited too long. I think it's one of the first time you do something, it's probably going to suck. And you just need to make peace with it. So an example I want to pick up on that you were speaking to was hosting a workshop. So last year, you know, I was hearing about the power of live events, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to just throw it out there. I'm just going to put something on Meetup for $97 and see what happens. I had a title, but I didn't have content, a plan. I was like, let's just see if people are interested. And 3 people signed up, which isn't a ton, but it was great. They came to my condo meeting room, so that didn't cost me anything to rent. Made a few $100 for teaching for 3 hours. And you know what? That was my first one. So, you know, I'm inspired to do another one this year. And now we're going to take it to the next level. So just make that decision. And if you're doing a workshop, a masterclass, or anything, you know, something I think maybe to layer onto that decision is choose a date. Have a date entrenched, put it on your calendar, and now it is official. And then you can start working backwards to satisfy that date requirement. But even, you know, when I was doing the summit that you were a part of, the first step was write a date and put it on the calendar. It is non-negotiable. And that's almost what you need to just kind of propel you forward and make it all start moving and going into motion.
And consistency will mean something different to everybody. Ideally, if you can do one workshop a week, that would be phenomenal. Like, could you imagine, even if you got in front of 10 people a week, that's 40 people a month. Chances are it's going to be a lot more, but let's say it's 40 people. And if only 10% of those people decided to work with you, that's 4 new clients a month. Maybe you can't do 4 live workshops a month. That's okay. Maybe you can do 1. But just decide for you, what is that consistency going to be, and commit to it.
Amazing. So Kathleen, I'm going to ask you for your final point on what we can do to have a little more confidence to get some clients.
All right. So this one is really important too. And it's definitely a mindset thing. Be okay being uncomfortable. It gets easier. You're going to feel uncomfortable. I can pretty much guarantee it. Whether it's your first live stream, your first interview, your first workshop, you're going to be nervous and it's going to be uncomfortable, right? Would you agree, Lisa? Like that workshop you did, like, were you nervous? Were you like,
you know, the workshop, I wasn't nervous about it because I'm a total ham. I love being in person in front of people. But one thing that I can actually point towards, look back at, and, you know, now I am on the other side of seeing the benefits of being uncomfortable. But when I hosted the summit in April, you know, when I was doing my first interview, I was home an hour early. I was setting everything up. I was making sure the lighting was right. It was such a big deal. And then by the time I was doing my 21st interview, I was on, doom, done. It took nothing. You know what I mean? Like, the amount of growth that I had in just 3 weeks of doing that was amazing. And then now I look at myself on the other side. One of my girlfriends is just signing up to do her first summit as well. And I'm watching her kind of nerves and put it all together. And I'm just like, I'm so excited for you to get on the other side of this. Like, have the journey, enjoy the journey. But like, it's so easy by the time you're done with it.
But when you first start, it's scary, right?
Always.
But if you let the fear hold you back, you're never going to have a chance to build your confidence, and you're not going to be able to grow your practice. And I have to say, it's as simple as that. Like, if you're serious about growing your practice, it's going to take you being uncomfortable, getting out of your comfort zone. And I think a lot of this comes from, you know, we worry about being perfect, or if we're good enough, fit enough, or whatever enough. And really, truly, your clients don't care about that. They care that you can help them. So you just kind of have to get out of your head about it. Your clients don't want you to be perfect. They really almost would prefer that you not be, because then they feel like they have to put you on this pedestal. They want you to be real and relatable and support them. You know, I hear this from coaches pretty often. that they don't feel ready because they're not at their ideal weight, right? They feel like they still have 20 pounds to lose, or maybe they're still dealing with some sort of health condition. So they're doubting themselves, like, well, how can I help people if I'm not perfect? And it's like, oh, people are going to relate to you so much more when they hear your story and they see you're still dealing with it too. I think it just helps them connect with you even more. So I think we have to remember that it's okay to not feel confident, but in order to build the confidence, and it may just take doing baby steps. So whatever that is for you, that's where the growth comes, is when you do get out of your comfort zone. And I kind of want to offer a bonus tip. It's kind of related to this, but it's kind of an offshoot, is to not compare yourself to other coaches. Because I see this all the time. You see someone that's doing really well and you think, well, what's wrong with me? Why are they doing so great? But what you don't see is their backstory. Like, what did it take them to get where they are now? I pretty much guarantee they've had ups and downs and struggles and trials, things that didn't go well. But the difference is that didn't stop them. They kept going forward, and I think each step we take helps us build our confidence just a little bit more. And then we think, I'll give you a perfect example. Karen and I started our podcast. And if you had told me 2 years ago I'd have a podcast, I'd be like, you are nutty cuckoo bananas. There is no way. But I built my confidence, being on summits and doing live streams and things like that, where, you don't have to plan something that seems so far out there that it completely freaks you out, right? Mm-hmm. So take a couple steps back. What could you start with?
That's amazing. And I see that Wendy's resonating with tip number 4 as well.
Yeah.
And I think maybe even a resource, if I can share for some people, is there's a book called Face the Fear and Do It Anyway, or Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. So if anyone's struggling with the fear and moving past it, maybe that's worth checking out from the library or from Amazon or Chapters or wherever you shop for books. And that can help provide a little more inspiration for you.
Yeah, it's so true, because we all have, like, for you, maybe it wasn't a big deal for you to go out and do that workshop, but doing the summit was. So we all have different things that make us really nervous. But you can't, I know it's easy to say, but I'm saying it because I did it. I started out being very uncomfortable coaching, very uncomfortable speaking in public, doing anything like this 3 years ago. I'd been like, there's no way. But just over time, we forget, we all start out at the very beginning. So just remember that and be kind to yourself, but also push yourself out of that comfort zone, because each time you do, it's going to build your confidence, and you might not realize it at the time when you're in it, but a few months from now, when you look back, you're going to see how far you've come. And I hope you give yourself like a huge pat on the back.
And like the saying is, hindsight is 20/20, right?
Yeah, so true. So true.
For those of you who are just logging on, I totally encourage you to come back to the beginning of this video, because Kathleen and I just spent the last 30 minutes or so talking about how to get the confidence to get clients. So Kathleen, before I let you go today, the first thing I want to point out is you mentioned your podcast. So tell us a little bit more about it and how we can find it.
Oh, yeah. So the Wellness Business Podcast, depending, you can just, search your smartphone podcast app. You can listen on iTunes, or you can actually listen through our website, which is the wellnessbusinesspodcast.com. Yeah, we just launched that the beginning of last month, July.
And I've been binge listening to it like crazy.
I'm so glad.
So I just put the URL up for everyone so that they can find it online.
Oh,
and on it. So yeah, it's really cool that you guys launched that. Like I said, I've been binge listening to it. And last week I actually had the opportunity to do this Facebook Live with Karen Paddock over on my group. So if you guys want to see that interview, I want you to look up the group Get Seen, Get Clients, and Get Paid, because that is where you're going to find the replay of that interview. And then Kathleen, let's wrap it up with, where can everybody find you personally?
Okay, so before we wrap up, I'm going to put a little teaser out there. We're going to be interviewing Lisa coming up here very soon too, right? Yeah.
Wasn't sure if that was public knowledge, but I cannot wait to chat with you guys.
It is now.
It's the first time it's out there. Woohoo!
Yeah. So you can find me, healthcoachsolutions.net, on Facebook, Health Coach Solutions. Those are probably the top two ways. Instagram, Kathleen Legrys, Legrys. And just a correction on the podcast. I know it's a long URL. It's thewellnessbusinesspodcast.com. Unfortunately, we had to put that "the" in there when we write. We're like, oh, darn it. But yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on. If anybody has any questions, let us know. I know, until you start feeling a little more confident, you're just going to hold yourself back from things. So whatever it takes to put yourself out there, just get started.
Amazing. And for you guys who are watching, I want you to leave a comment below saying what action you're going to take since watching this video. So we're going to hold you accountable to it. So when you leave that comment, Kathleen and I are going to see it, and we're going to be your cheerleaders, and leave us your successes too once you've done it. So Kathleen, thank you so much again. I asked for 20 minutes of your time. You were so generous to give me 30 minutes of your time. So I always love talking to you, and I can't wait to connect with you on the Wellness Business Podcast.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lisa.
Thank you. And for everyone tuning in, thanks for watching this. And for more great interviews just like this, go over to my Facebook group at Get Seen, Get Clients, Get Paid, because you're going to find 5 or 6 other similar interviews on the #1 way to get clients on Facebook, how to go offline to online. So there's a lot of great gems on there, and I can't wait to see you in the group. Everybody, have a great day. Kathleen, thanks again. And we will see you next week, Thursday at 3 p.m. for another interview.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.